I've never even thought about wanting to work in academia just because I never thought that it was for me. If I wanted to go into academia now, it'd be a little bit too late.
I think a lot of doctoral students underestimate their readiness for academia.
How do you go from being a student for so long to becoming a faculty member, right? Like, how do you make that switch?
Throw your hat in the ring generally, not just in the academic job market, but when given opportunities to speak and engage yourself with places like NCME.
I feel like there's a disconnect between like the ivory towers and the halls of academia and then the actual field.
It takes time and experience to learn how to best allocate your time and to delegate projects and to try to focus on what are the things that are the most important.
And I've seen that before when some of our students here will become an instructor of record of a class and they're like, whoa, I didn't realize how intense it was just to teach one section of one course.
But my biggest fear, I guess, is being tokenized or kind of diminished to what I am in terms of my ethnicity or my background. But I'm being perceived as this minoritized person. And so I have to go above and beyond what their expectations are of me, so they don't consider me to be whatever stereotype they may or may not have of me, if that makes sense. Another fear is constantly having to be the unofficial spokesperson for a whole ethnic group, kind of alluding to it, but not being taken seriously or passed over for opportunities just because of my background. As we know, there are very, very, very few persons of Hispanic, Latin origin, and persons of color in general in higher ed, and more so in like professor positions. I guess I just view industry as being more diverse based on what I've seen and based on what I've researched and experienced so far.
So they like that social capital, they're behind because no one invested in them. They weren't necessarily invested in, so it makes it very difficult for them to compete.
Minority students tend to lean towards minority faculty for like guidance, navigating the system. So when the minority faculty members are limited in the field, it becomes a challenge for minority students because they don't have the opportunity to talk to people who look like them.
You just have to find your tribe. There's a group of people who can help you. You definitely just have to find a community. And once you find that community, things will be slightly better. They won't be perfect because nothing is ever perfect, but they'll definitely be. It'll get easier.
Somewhat think, all right, like, am I doing my part in creating space here and, giving everyone a fair shot to get into this program or to become a faculty here or whatever, to collaborate with, then we'll see the change that we need.
One of the barriers that I think that may occur would be probably imposter syndrome. I may be confident in my own skill set, but I may allow others to make me doubt myself at some point in time.
There are issues such as visa that we need to consider.
I think we now have witnessed a fast-growing community of international scholars in the educational management. So I think as part of them, and I and others were born in some other different cultures, and so we have our own cultures. We also learn U.S. cultures such as democracy, liberty, diversity, and inclusion. So basically, each of us have dual backgrounds in this academia. So we want to speak our voice, and also we want to let others to know that our voice and respect us.
Not my student, but who from day one has wanted to go into an academic position, and her advisor has given her a lot of experiences that sort of exposes her to what it would really be like, and
teach to the papers that have moved the field, both historical and current, and show people the articles not just as they are finished, but as they came to be created.
When choosing a position, I wanted to get a position where I can get some of that practical experience to learn, well, what do we need? What problems need to be solved?
Is these sort of research practice partnerships or centers that do have grants and contracts and bring in a large amount of data so that there is sort of real world application happening at a department or an adjacent or affiliated center.
is when we do have a project, I'll develop a flyer and I'll start targeting different community organizations on campus. So for example, we have the Porterhouse Scholars here that are designed for underrepresented student groups, and I'll target them to get students, do you have any students that are interested in going to grad school and getting some research experience? And if you have a McNair program at your institution, while you're working with the student on the research component, they're getting additional supports on the application process to get into a grad program. The best way I found students to get attracted to measurement quantitative methods is through community-based research. They see these issues that they want to be involved with addressing, but maybe they just don't know how. But then once they start working with data, designing instruments, selecting instruments, it opens their eyes up. And that's the hook that I found to get people interested in the field. It's very hard if you're just in a bubble and expect people that are just going to come in and find you.
Really studying what it's like at different programs, different departments, different concentrations where you'd be teaching, and say, does that fit what I want to do? Are they going to not just fit, but is it going to be a supportive environment? What I found is if you surround yourself by supportive people, you're really going to prosper. And if you end up in a place where people are not going to be supportive of what you're trying to do, it's going to be very difficult because you're going to have to kind of fight against that.